you. I want to thank Bob for letting us come in here. The cars have been an institution here in the Binghamton area, and Car 2.0 printing is a wonderful business. I love the smell of ink in the morning. But I appreciate their hospitality. This is the kind of business that we would like to see flourish in New York, despite the obstacles that have been put in front of it. This is an example of a business that will get nothing from the fraudulent Startup New York campaign that Governor Cuomo has been touting with over $200 billion in tax money for what is really purely a political commercial. Who in their right mind, if the cars live in Texas or Florida, where there's no income tax, low corporate tax, a really good business-friendly environment, who in their right mind would leave those states to come to New York to get pounded by taxes, to get harassed by their state government? So the whole Startup New York campaign will do nothing for someone like the cars, and many businesses in New York. So that whole fraudulent campaign needs to come to an end, and we need to actually stop with the gimmicks and the marketing and move towards an economic recovery that could happen in this state. You know, it saddens me when I look at where New York is today, where it once was. We look against all the other 49 states, and we are dead last in all categories when measured against the other 49. And this is New York. This should be a state that should constantly be flexing its muscles, should constantly be the beacon of businesses throughout the country to come here and enjoy what we have in New York, in our people and our educated workforce. But it's not happening. Just the opposite is happening. Because we are one of the worst states in America in business climates, because we are the highest tax state in America, because we have the worst economic outlook of any state in America, because we are the worst state to retire in, according to the AARP, because we have the most rules and regulations of any state in America. 400,000 New Yorkers have left this state in the last 3.5 years under this governor, and it doesn't have to be that way. You know, when I walked into Westchester County as the county executive on January 1st, we promised that we were going to make things better in that county. We were going to reduce county property taxes, which we did more than any county in New York State, and we were going to work on the rules and regulations with our businesses, small and big, so they could actually expand and flourish. And lo and behold, not only did we cut the county property tax levy more than any county, but we also cut the budget in Westchester to make sure the dollars went to work in a smarter way as opposed to wasteful. And 30,000 private sector jobs were created in Westchester in the previous 4 years. So businesses are expanding in Westchester. Small businesses are taking a chance in Westchester. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates. The unemployment rate in New York is unacceptably high. When you look at upstate New York, it ranks dead last in economic recovery in America. And specifically here in Binghamton, out of the 363 metropolitan markets in all of America, Binghamton, according to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, ranks dead last, 363rd out of 363. It is unacceptable. In fact, 10 of the worst 20 metropolitan areas in America are right here in New York. And we shouldn't settle for that. We shouldn't just look the other way and pretend and hope it goes away. The governor promised radical reform back in his first State of the State address, and he hasn't delivered. What we've gotten is phony gimmicks and a marketing campaign that is fraudulent, that is wasting over $200 million in taxpayer money, which is also taking $40 million of that from hurricane relief money meant to put victims back in their homes, and he's using it to perpetuate this myth that all is well in New York. But people aren't buying it, and they shouldn't buy it. What we should buy into is a real economic recovery plan and making the state business-friendly so the cars of the world will actually decide to stay in New York, where they'll actually expand here, and others will come up with that great idea, and instead of going to North Carolina or Florida or to Texas, they'll set up shop right here in Binghamton or anywhere in New York. So our plan, the Astorino Moss plan, calls for radically changing the structure of this state. We're going to talk about our tax relief plan in a couple of weeks in greater detail. But basically, if you've got the highest taxes in America, you've got the worst business climate, worst economic outlook, you got the most regulations, and you start with that because it can't get any worse, right? So let's make it a lot better. And the way we would do that is to start reducing taxes across the board, where people actually have more money to invest, and they won't see the state as the enemy. Because right now, all we hear from small businesses, corporations, and farmers is that the state of New York, the state government, has become the opponent in business. It's become the oppressor, if you will. Not only we have the highest taxes, but then they nickel and dime you to death so bad and over-regulate you and send in the inspectors and start with the violations and the fines and increase the fees that it's becoming impossible to do business here, and people are becoming discouraged from doing business here. So we would start working on the most onerous regulations and laws on the books to get rid of those. The scaffold law is one, especially in the construction industry. It absolutely raises the cost of doing business. The State Environmental Quality Review Act is something that's been on the books here for quite a while, and it has some good features in it, but it's also become the tool to bludgeon any progress in this state. It should actually bring balance to protecting the environment, but moving forward on an economic agenda, moving forward and allowing businesses to expand. But that has not helped. It has actually forced increased costs and actually stopped development in the state. And the biggest one, I think, for the southern tier is moving forward with natural gas exploration. There is no reason why we cannot safely set up regulations that would protect the health and our land. Move forward, though, with natural gas exploration, which will put tens of thousands of people back to work in good-paying jobs. And to drag his feet like the governor has done, simply because he's politically paralyzed, because the Yoko Onos of the world in New York City say no, the governor in essence says you're on your own in the worst economically challenged region in America, right here in Binghamton. So we'll move forward with that, and we'll allow the communities that want to do it to move forward and to reap the benefits of billions in revenue, which will help lower taxes in a very high tax state, will bring down energy costs, which will make it easier for businesses to succeed and homes to stay lit, and put people back to work, which is the #1 reason we're releasing our jobs plan, to get people back to work. So what I'm saying is, look, we don't have to settle for the myth that New York is great, because right now it's not. So despite all the Startup New York ads and the phony, fraudulent campaign that it is, things are not good. We know it. And we're going to make sure we're going to attack the root causes of the problem. And that's right in Albany, the policies that were perpetuated by this government. We're going to do something about it so people have hope again and optimism again about living in New York and actually want to stay in New York as opposed to treating it like a prison sentence and counting the days off before you can leave. So that's what we're all about, Chris Moss and I. We understand it, we get it, and we're going to aggressively tackle problems so people could actually flourish and live here in Binghamton in the southern tier as opposed to wondering when they can leave. With that, I'll take any questions you have.
Natural gas exploration, one of the biggest issues is making sure that it's done safely, keeping in mind people that are working in terms of their health. What kind of cautions would you set up?
Well, look, this is something that the Health Department, the Department of Environmental Protection will work on. It's not going to be open-ended like this governor. It's been a 6-year process, starting with Governor Patterson and now 4 years with Governor Cuomo. We're going to set up a 90-day limit. Get the rules and regulations clarified. Let's get them on the books. 30 other states are doing this. It's not like we're the first to jump into this. It's not the Wild West. We have learned from what other states have done right and wrong. The technology has gotten much, much better. And it's something that can safely be done and is being done throughout the nation, led by Democrats and Republicans, led by environmental groups and business groups. So there's no reason why we can't safely move forward on natural gas exploration and reap the benefits. This will help people of all skill levels, all education levels, all income levels get a good job or career. And whether it's an engineer or a truck driver or somebody on a rig, that's going to put food on the table and educate your children and keep you in your home here in Binghamton in the southern tier. But to say that we shouldn't be doing it when Pennsylvania is reaping the benefits, when 30 states are doing it safely, and say New York can't and shouldn't, is exactly what's wrong with this state.
Still on fracking. I mean, the southern tiers of region that's totally split on fracking in terms of support of it. Like in a recent Santa College poll, 60% of people were like, we get the economic development part, but half of people are still like, we don't think it's a good idea. I mean, what would you say to a region that's still unsure?
I think there were people who thought nuclear energy wasn't good at some point. There were people who thought that drilling for oil was no good. There were people who thought that going to the moon was no good. But ultimately, you have to advance, and we can do so today safely. And it's a balance. Everything's a risk and reward, but we've learned from what other states have done, right and wrong. Science has changed dramatically. There's more fear in this than anything else. But to say that we shouldn't do anything, just put our fingers in our ears and our hands over our eyes and say no, is not going to help this region and the state get back on its feet. 30 other states are doing it successfully, they're doing it safely, and we should be the 31st state to do that. As you know, there was a Court of Appeals ruling that said that local zoning prevails. So what we would do is set up rules and regulations and allow the counties and communities to move forward, whoever wants to do that.
Look at the data in the past, 10, 20 years. Businesses, local businesses, family-owned, continue to move out of the area. What would you say to a business owner that's kind of on the edge saying, why stay here in the southern tier when I can move to Florida or Texas, get, lower taxes? What's the benefit?
Help is on the way. That starts in January when we get into office, because we did it in Westchester, and we're ready to do it for the state. And it really has to be an attack on the problems, because so far the governor has done nothing to attack the root problems. Property taxes keep going up because they never did anything about mandating them. Property taxes and taxes keep going up, and businesses keep moving out because the same old bad rules and regulations are on the books, and they're getting worse because the state's getting more aggressive. The state sees businesses as a way to collect money to keep the state growing. We shouldn't be growing the state, we should be growing businesses in this state. And government does not create private sector jobs, period. Government can set up the climate, business climate, where with a lower tax structure and make it easier for businesses to take a chance, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's a startup or a manufacturing plant or anything in between, including farmers. Agricultural assets are coming under pressure here. Farmers are selling off acres and acres of land just to keep up with property taxes, the rules and the regulations, and that's one of the things that we address here too. But aside from the island of Manhattan, which is doing very well, the rest of the state is not. And we need to acknowledge that and look at the problems as we have and start going after them. Because, if you go to the doctor and you're told that you've got a real bad disease, you got to aggressively treat it and you can survive, you can get angry and just take an aspirin and say, I don't want to deal with it, but we know the end result. Or you can actually go after the problem. And we're going after the problem here because this is New York, and I refuse to accept the fact that we can't get better, that we should be at the bottom of every list in this country in economic recovery and business climate and taxes. We've got to go after, first of all, the northeastern states. We should be competing against these high-tax, highly regulated northeastern states that are still beating us, and there's no reason for that. That's the first phase. The second phase is going after nationally the Texas and Floridas and North Carolinas and South Carolinas and Georgias and North Dakotas. North Dakota's unemployment is in the twos. They now have 6 of the top 25 richest counties in America because they took advantage of, in their case, oil, which is underneath their ground, and some natural gas. But they went into the energy boom. They're doing it right, but they're reaping the benefits. We can do that here, but we can't be afraid to move forward.
Would you speak about the Moreland Commission and how that was all handled in the state, both its inception and its final extinction?
Well, the corruption is another major factor in this state, and we can no longer turn a blind eye to it. Corruption is not just a couple politicians going off in handcuffs. That doesn't affect us. Corruption affects every New Yorker, and it's one of the reasons why we basically pay a stealth corruption tax in this state. It's why we have high property taxes. It's why the economy is bad. It's why businesses leave, because it's an unlevel playing field. And when the corruption succeeds and Andrew Cuomo is allowed in some way to get away with the corruption, to make sure that his opponents and enemies are investigated, and when it gets too close to the governor and his friends, he cuts it off. That's serious. And the U.S. Attorney, prosecutors are looking into Andrew Cuomo's his potential crimes, which are obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and other things. That's serious stuff. But that's got to come to an end. And my ethics plan that we put out several weeks ago talks about that. Term limits are very important, I think, to get this state fresh blood and new ideas, and not to have people beholden to the special interest, to get people in and out. I think that's very important. If you're convicted of a crime on public corruption, you should lose your pension. I mean, these are the kind of things that I think make common sense. You're not going to root out all corruption everywhere, because we're human beings. But I think you can limit some of the temptations and get the system better. Because right now we have the most corrupt state in America, and that's according to the University of Illinois. But it is bad. And you can see when you have the governor of New York that is under investigation by federal prosecutors for some very serious crimes, it has got to come to an end.
Going back to jobs, how would you make Binghamton and Southern Tier specifically marketable to some of these businesses?
Well, again, look, it starts with, if you've got air in a balloon that is ready to pop, you got to let air out of the balloon. And right now, we've got the highest taxes in America. So if you're in Pennsylvania, where you have natural gas exploration, where taxes are low, if you're in neighboring states, or if you're in the southern state, and you're looking at where to start a business, are you really going to look at New York? You're not. I mean, literally, the Start Up New York campaign is the biggest joke nationally. And why, by the way, is half of the money, over $100 million, tax dollars, being used to spend Start Up New York ads that's supposed to attract companies nationally? Why is it being aired only in New York State? That proves it's purely political. It has nothing to do with creating jobs in New York. It has everything to do with the gimmicks and the fraudulent marketing campaign that is driving the state into the ground. Because the reason startup is wrong, and it just goes into everything that has been making the state into a downward spiral, you have to be a startup in high tech. You have to locate on a SUNY property. And if you meet all these rules and regulations, then maybe you get a tax break. What about Card 2.0 printer, who gets none of the benefits of a startup New York and has worked very hard for decades to stay in the Binghamton area, playing by the rules and subsidizing? So I don't know who in Binghamton has the next good idea, but I'll be damned if I'm going to sit and pick and choose winners. I'm going to encourage whoever has that next good idea in Binghamton to set up groups right here in Binghamton and to make it easier to do so. One of the things we're proposing to eliminate, are the fees for LLCs and small businesses. It's just the nickel and diming that makes it harder to get things off the ground. And if you can get rid of those kind of obstacles, they'll be more likely to take a chance here in New York, and specifically here in Binghamton. Okay? Thank you, everybody.